Hey, welcome or welcome back to the stash. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time of the month again when we have a new release of the best current Spidey series, Ultimate Spider-Man. Now, if you remember, last issue was subjected to some controversy online with complaints about it being a filler and it was just too much talking. If you saw my video, obviously I defended the book since those character building stories are some of the key core storytelling elements within Spider-Man stories that have been so missed lately. Now in this issue, issue 5, it is no different. This is the penultimate comic book before the big finale of the first arc, and so in an attempt to leave no loose ends, Hickman delivers another slow and character building release. So join us today as we take a look at Ultimate Spider-Man issue 5, The Origin of the Green Goblin. But before we get into that, I just wanted to quickly let everyone know that we are trying to reach 2,000 subscribers before the end of June, and with your help, I know we can do it. So if you're new around here and like Spidey or just comic content in general, feel free to stick around and maybe hit that subscribe button. Psst, we also have a very cool little membership down below for a very small price with a bunch of cool little perks. But anyway, back to the video. So in case you've missed the previous videos, lucky for you there is a playlist. I'll go over a quick recap of Ultimate Spider-Man. A diabolical genius known as the Maker created his ideal Earth by systematically preventing anyone from ever becoming a superhero. To rule his perfected Earth, he placed supervillains in charge of different regions, and together, the Maker's Council quietly orchestrated the history of the world. Now, when Tony Stark discovered the true history of the world, the Maker's Council perpetrated a terrible attack on New York City in Stark's name. Two of the victims in that attack were Norman Osborn, CEO of Oscorp, and his wife Emily, and now their son Harry Osborn is about to learn the truth of the world himself in a quest for justice along the way. All of these events help lead up to him meeting Peter Parker after they take down the criminal known as Bullseye. So our story begins at the crucial turning point within Harry's life. Months ago, the great Norman Osborn was hosting a massive gathering, with the main occasion being the meeting between the Osborns and someone very, very important. Norman has made it very clear just how grand this event is, and for Harry not to be late. Unfortunately though, he's behind on schedule. Norman is beginning to get quite frantic as he stares outside his skyscraper. Filled with the usual Osborn disappointment, Harry calls his mum, but Norman quickly snatches the phone to answer it. And in typical fashion, we get some brilliant dialogue by Hickman, once again showing up the current writers of Spider-Man. He manages to really instill the Osborn weight the name carries within 2 pages of work. I love the way he depicts Norman in this scene. It tells us all we need to know about this Norman Osborn and the way him and Harry are as father and son. And one part he manages to capture brilliantly is the expectations that Norman has for his son, since he's the heir to the throne. Yet to his much saddened realization that in his eyes, all he sees in his son is an unfit weakling. The authority and respect that Norman manages to demand within the several speech bubbles is just perfect for his character. Hickman really seems to understand the cast of Spider-Man in ways in which leave me upset at him just not being the main writer at ASM. Harry. Yes, Dad? What name do you bear? What? What name do you bear? Osborn? Yes. It's a great name. It means something. Harry, do you know what my favorite memory of you is? Yeah, that time we played catch and... No. That's you, the little boy talking. And that memory? It's the memory of a child. My favorite memory of you is the day you finally started acting like a man. Like an Osborn. The problem is... it hasn't happened yet. We're all waiting for you, Harry. How long are you going to make us wait? How much longer am I going to... Right before Norman could finish his sentence, the entire building is attacked and explodes, killing everyone inside. All Harry can do is watch it unfold right before him, filled with complete agonizing fear of what just happened. A few weeks later, Harry and his wife Gwen Stacy are just finishing some details and seeing what now belongs to them since the passing of Norman and Emily Osborn. Bill assures Harry that he is now in charge and the owner of everything that once was his father's, and that also there was a strange card delivered to his office. A calling card of sorts from the man secretly behind it all, the Kingpin. Once Harry's there, we discover that Wilson Fisk needs a favor of him. Now, if you've seen any mob movies, you just know that this never ends well. But anyway, since Obadiah Stone had no existing family and there be no more Starks, Fisk wants to offload their companies to keep them from rebuilding and rising up once more, since they won't be forgotten by anyone, and the easiest way he believes to do that is to sell the companies to Harry Osborn. Harry of course agrees, and 2 weeks later and 2 days worth of cutting through, they've finally hit the jackpot and discover all of Stark's equipment. You may not realize it at first, but here we're also introduced to this world's Otto Octavius. He works for Gwen and Harry and is a typical genius, but even still he feels like he's pretty underestimated by Gwen and Harry, mostly Gwen though. And in this book, we really get to see some, weird vibes from her. Like, she's just a cynical businesswoman with a much bigger plan buried underneath what she shows. But even in the last issue when Peter, Mary Jane, Gwen, Harry shared a dinner together, we saw some signs of her being a bit, weird, I guess you could say. Bit dodgy. But in this issue here, it's just all in full force. Now we get this cool montage of the Green Goblin's point of view of the events leading up to the present day. Think of it like playing the villain missions in LEGO Batman 1. So we moved to 4 months ago, which should be January since the book follows our time with its releases and story setting. This is when Harry actually gets his goblin suit made by Otto Octavius using Stark materials. We also learn that Stark technology is now being used across the globe without any known reason as to why they've all of a sudden popped up. However, Harry does intend to find out. Issue 2 or 3 months ago, we see what Harry did to Shocker after he got the upper hand over Spider-Man. Shocker thinks that Goblin's here to recapture the money, but he's dead wrong. Harry deactivates the gauntlets and makes a deal that if Shocker informs him on how he got the tech, he gets to keep the money. So as a special treat, we not only get the Green Goblin's origin, but also the Shockers. Turns out, one time when he was robbing someone's apartment, Tony Stark's message was playing to a random guy, just like how Peter had. But sadly for this guy, he died of a heart attack. Lucky for Herman, he just walks right up and takes the tech for himself. And after telling him this story, he tries to get the jump on Harry, but it just ends like how you would expect it to. 2 months ago, or just issue 3, shows us Pete and Harry at the bar. It's cool that we get this little scene showing their first proper hangout right after they had defeated Bullseye. Pete and Harry begin to just dig a little deep into what their lives actually are, and, even just about Tony Stark and the overall goal of their mission. It's good to see that Harry knows enough to not be obnoxiously anti-Stark, since that was a strong point of a possible conflict between him and Peter. It shows their maturity in this scene really well. We really get to see Harry's inner conflict, and it's clear that he generally wants to help others and likes Peter, but there's also this very cold way in which his father has raised him, and in the end, I know that this could be a very, big trigger that will make Spider-Man and the Green Goblin later confront each other. What also interests me here is just knowing how much Gwen is involved in all of this. She already knows about her husband's secret life, but I also wonder if there's stuff that she doesn't know he's doing. It leaves a lot of extra questions and routes to take for the story. Like, if she knew, would she support him or be against him with, his moral conflict? I've just been really loving how this issue is the final preparation before the eventual massive climax of the first story arc. Will it end with Harry losing Gwen and becoming a more sinister Green Goblin, or will Peter lose MJ? Again, maybe it's both, but I guess all we can do is just wait, but I'm loving the way they're building this up. I even made note of this last time about the art and the way Harry has this shadow look, which just leaves me with so many mixed feelings about what sort of energy he actually radiates, and I think it's a perfect way to just demonstrate how messed up and conflicted his mind is. The duality between the dark and light in the face of Harry, it tells us everything. That he doesn't know what he is. He can't decide if he's a hero or a villain, and the art just manages to capture that. Now going to the present day, the end of the book, which obviously sets up the big finale of the first arc, Harry has finished interrogating Bullseye and is ready to go out for the main target, Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. My father always talked about the difference between being a boy and a man. And maybe he was right. But maybe you are too. Am I a boy or a man? Am I a hero or something else? I guess we're about to find out. Now, I've seen a lot of discourse over this issue, like mentioned at the beginning of the video, and a popular one that I see over Twitter is just like, this is another filler issue, or this issue was great if you love people talking for 20 pages. Firstly, to those saying it's filler, I'm not really sure how you could really call it that in the first place. Is it slow? Yes, 100%. Should Spider-Man be in it more? Probably. But Fillers are more like one-shots that don't actually add anything to the overall main story. However, here we're getting vital information. Especially in this issue, it's the last piece of setup, the last piece of backstory we needed before the big finale. It was necessary because we now know Harry's inner conflicts. We now know what's pushing him, what's driving him to be the Green Goblin. We also get even more set up for future stories with the addition of Otto Octavius, and I feel like that this story was a must just for the larger context of it all. I also feel like for those who didn't really enjoy this book, which at the end of the day it's fair, everyone has a different opinion, could be from this being a monthly title as opposed to a fortnightly release, since waiting a month each time to barely see Spider-Man, I understand how that could be really annoying, whereas if it was released more frequently, it would make it feel less dragged out. Another point I'd like to make though is, to me at least, I view this series Ultimate Spider-Man as probably going to be as close as we'll get for a very long time to actually recapturing the true essence of what made Spider-Man comics and stories so good and so special. I understand having Spider-Man not show up for like 2 issues can be frustrating, but I don't know, with all the context about this story arc, it felt natural to me. Even if we go all the way back to the OG Ultimate Spider-Man series, it took them a solid 5 to 6 issues before he actually became Spider-Man. In fact, we don't actually see the proper finished costume till issue 6. That's when he fully becomes Spider-Man. You can count issue 5 if you really want to, but he hadn't even drawn the web lines, it didn't even have the web shooters, but anyway, my point is, the original series, it took its time. Whether it was his origin and we just spent the first few issues building up the characters and the world they're a part of, but it's no different here. In fact, Hickman pretty much has taken less amount of time when it comes to building his world. And if it means anything, I can see this book lasting a long time, but if it wasn't, and it was only like a 6-part special, then I completely understand the slow-paced criticisms. For the artwork, I feel like it's worth mentioning that David Messina did a pretty decent job as a fill-in artist. He managed to capture the very basic outlines of Marco's artwork, which helps make the overall look of the book feel really connected, just like how any artist that would come in back in the day would base their work off Romita's designs. Although I am very excited for Marco's return to the book, because he's one of the best modern artists I've ever seen in a comic book, and I swear that this team right here, would kill ASM if they were given the chance.
He does exactly what I do, but better.
I'm in awe of how Hickman manages to carefully weave his story while showing that he really cares for the characters of this book. He takes the time to not only construct the cast, but also the world around them and how they fit in. So overall, it's pretty obvious that, despite all the criticisms of this issue, I still personally really enjoyed it and thought it was still a very strong entry into the Ultimate Spider-Man series. But that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, because here, any support means so much. I'd love to hear what you guys thought of this issue down below. Were you one of the people that did like it or didn't like it? Feel free to start a conversation and we can converse down there. Also, be sure to tune in next time, same web time, same web channel. Thank you guys again for watching and see you in the next one.